Until today, I've been comfortable being somewhat uneducated on political philosophy and theory. But I just watched a video by this guy named Michael Burns that completely changed my perspective. I would recommend watching that video called The Problem with the Left in its entirety, but the gist of it is that the left is often this amorphous thing to people, not clearly understood through the lens of defined political philosophies and specific political organizations. Here's the thing, that criticism applies to me. Up until this point, I've been what I have described as a low information leftist, meaning I've noticed that prominent self-described leftist figures continuously say things I emphatically agree with. So if I keep agreeing with the leftists, at a certain point, functionally, aren't I a leftist? By that logic, I thought having this perspective outlined by the sentiments I support and the policies I agree with was sufficient, and it worked for a while, but then something happened. I started making content criticizing what I saw as the cringy, fringe, terminally online left, and as Michael points out at the end of his video, that type of content isn't really helpful, but that's not the point I'm making here. That content, which I have since taken down, attracted to it a bunch of people who were exactly who I was complaining about, these sort of right-wing cringe meme leftist people personified. And because my identification as a leftist was based on agreeing with people who self-identified as a leftist, when these new self-identified leftists showed up and started harassing me, it made me question my self-identification. If my viewpoint of what the left is were more informed and grounded, it wouldn't be so vulnerable to erosion from obnoxious people who call themselves leftists. My current working definition of leftist, which is at best incredibly vague, somebody left of the Democratic Party mainstream, and at worst circular, somebody who identifies as a leftist, also makes it very hard for me to defend being a leftist when talking to people on the right or people on the fence who can point to examples of leftists that fit my definition. Well, they call themselves a leftist, they're to the left of the Democratic Party mainstream, aren't they a leftist? On the left, ideological specificity is often paired with infighting, and in that context, I wish more people would realize that the first 5 or 10 steps towards your view for the world is probably the first 5 or 10 steps towards everyone else's view for the world in your broad coalition. So I wish we could set aside our differences more and work towards common goals. With that said, I think I'm going to start moving away from what, at least for me, is kind of the performance of calling myself a leftist. Because if the next step is to explain what that means, why not cut to the chase? It seems almost certain that whatever I think about the world, there is probably some named political philosophy that encapsulates it. So why not put a little bit of work into figuring out what that philosophy is and then describing my views through that lens?